Welcome to an informal role course, where we discuss the dynamics of management teams, focusing on formal and informal roles and their effects on group behavior. By the end of this episode, you will understand role perception, identity formation, and strategies to encourage flexible team dynamics. In the 6th chapter, we dissect our position within the management team and its repercussions on group dynamics, extending the discussion from the previous chapter. Here, the concept of role is divided into 2 segments: the formal component, which encompasses defined roles and responsibilities and is not the focus of our current framework, and the informal component, which is our primary area of interest. The narrative of stepping into a new role, particularly a managerial one, is framed as a drama involving various actors, some present with you and others from the past. This drama unfolds within a triangular framework defined by 3 vertices: the formal definitions of the role, which set the tasks and expectations regardless of being explicitly documented; the organization, embodying its culture, history, values, and collective memory that shape the role's perception; and the informal role, which is the personal legacy that the role holder carries into their new position. This triangle, central to the drama of entering a new role, is unique every time, shaped by the distinct nature of each organization and each person's individuality. The informal role is essentially how we perceive our duties within a social framework, a perception that starts developing in infancy through interactions within our family and evolves with accumulated life experiences. Notably, this role perception becomes relatively stable early in life and alters only slightly thereafter. This role perception acts as a lens through which we view reality, establishing a feedback loop that further entrenches it within us. We bring this informal role along in every social encounter and the formal role we assume, much like a turtle with its shell. To grasp the development of our informal role, the concept of the winning compensation pattern is employed. It's essential to consider our early social interactions. From a young age, we receive feedback about our behavior and skills, which requires us to adapt. We start comparing ourselves to others, noting how they meet or fail to meet the expectations around them. This comparison can highlight a gap between what's expected of us and our actual abilities, leading to negative beliefs like, "I'm not good at math," or "I don't know English." To counter these beliefs, we develop strengths in areas where we can excel and receive positive feedback, transforming sporadic behaviors into solid patterns. These patterns, over time, integrate into our self-image and the perception others have of us. The winning compensation pattern is deemed winning because it represents a strength that earns us recognition and allows us to contribute positively to our social environment. However, it also has the potential to become a hindrance if applied inappropriately. This model underscores the complexity of our identity, suggesting that we possess multiple compensation patterns and informal roles. With a better understanding of the informal role now in hand, let's explore its function, manifestation within social settings, and its interaction with and impact on group dynamics. Observing children in a classroom setting offers an excellent opportunity to see this process in action. A classroom is a great laboratory because it lacks formal roles. Formally, all students are in the same role, a student. Yet it's impossible not to see how, in an unspoken manner, the class divides roles. For example, the leader. In every class, we meet those chosen for leadership, even though they were not chosen formally. The class did not gather and elect them to lead. How does it work? Those students have a tendency or psychological readiness, the professional word is valency, towards what we identify with leadership and guidance. The class, as a whole, needs to be led. Remember, for example, Bayon's dependency from the previous chapter. Thus, the class identifies who can enter the role of leader and paves their way there. In the same manner, the class identifies those who have developed the ability to amuse and turns them into the class clowns. Clown might sound negative, But that's not the intention. Humor and laughter have healing qualities that can alleviate the group's anxieties. The scapegoat, the wise one, and many other informal roles. As stated and will be said again, because it's important, these brief and limited definitions are meant to convey the idea. We have multiple roles that can be expressed differently in different groups. Now let's look at this process from the group side. Following what was discussed in the previous chapter, the group has an internal, hidden, and unspoken dynamic. The group deals with the anxiety from what threatens its existence, whether the threat is real or imagined. The group has defense mechanisms that allow it not to confront the anxieties that engulf it. The group needs to use its members to activate these defense mechanisms according to their informal role. Consider a management team where discussing emotions is not the norm. Suddenly, an emotional issue surfaces. The team, unaccustomed to dealing with such situations, is thrown into a state of anxiety. This anxiety triggers the team's defense mechanisms, one of which is flight avoiding the topic. The team employs humor, often through the clown, to diffuse the tension and shift the focus, allowing them to move on to the next agenda item. Of course, the process described here does not happen in such a mechanical way, but broadly, that's what happens. Therefore, here's the important point in the story. The team will not allow that clown, or any role holder in the team, to exit their role. The team holds them there to use when needed. This phenomenon is called projective identification. The person identifies with the identity the team projects onto them. This is why it's very difficult for us to exit our informal role. To a large extent, we are trapped within a role that we and the environment have built over the years without the ability to break free from it. The thing is, over time, the group becomes fixed on the distribution of roles within it, and then not only are the group members trapped in their roles, but also the group is trapped in an internal dynamic that cannot be broken free from. If you're interested in understanding the stagnation of the management or any other team, perhaps the investigation process should start with a question about the informal roles within the team and to what extent they have flexibility and movement, or whether they are fixed and rigid so that there's no room for change and development. If you can predict in advance who will say what on any topic that comes up in management, if it's rare that you are surprised by the behavior of your management team members, these are indications of a state of role stagnation. On the one hand, as written above, it's very difficult to move from the informal role, because against such an attempt, the group will exert a lot of opposing force. But on the other hand, the advantage is that not the entire team is needed to bring about change. It's enough for one team member to succeed in exiting their fixed role. This alone can lead to a different dynamic in the entire team that may create a new organization of informal roles. Therefore, our recommendation is simply to practice exiting the role again and again. To make this more interesting and perhaps a bit playful, we recommend practicing surprising the group. The idea is to surprise with behavior and not content. That is, to surprise the group with behavior that does not match their expectations of you, to react differently from what the group has become accustomed to seeing, or to take a side in a discussion that typically does not characterize you. This element of surprise can be a powerful tool in influencing team dynamics, sparking intrigue and curiosity among your colleagues. Another option is to talk about it. Simply tell the group, I know that now I'm expected to be so-and-so or to do such and such, but I ask to exit, at least this time, from my fixed role. You'll be surprised how much this can influence the dynamics in the room. From experience,